Hey everyone, welcome. Let's just jump right in today. We are bringing you a highly requested explainer to summarize a truly game-changing book for this channel, Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. We're going to take those intense, high-stakes FBI hostage negotiation tactics from his playbook and show you exactly how to use them in your own everyday life. So grab a notepad because these tools are absolutely incredibly powerful. All right, picture this. You're sitting in a room and someone slides a tape recorder across the table with a literal terrifying demand. We've got your son Voss. Give us $1 million or he dies. Now, this actually happened to Chris Voss, the FBI's former lead international kidnapping negotiator. But here's the crazy part. He wasn't facing off against a terrorist cartel. He was actually going head-to-head against brilliant, highly trained Harvard law professors in this massive, high-pressure roleplay. And you know what happened? Voss, who was a former beat cop, by the way, completely dominated them. Not with complex economic theories, but with raw, pure psychology. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, well, I don't negotiate with bank robbers, so why do I need this? Well, because the core premise of this book is that life is a negotiation. Trying to get a 10% raise, haggling over a used car, or honestly, just trying to get your kid to go to sleep at 9 p.m., you're negotiating. And the exact same psychological tools used to disarm hostage takers, they work beautifully to resolve our own everyday conflicts. Which brings us to phase 1, the myth of rationality. So we really need to understand why traditional logic-based methods, the kind they teach at Harvard, often fails spectacularly out in the real world. Drawing on the Nobel Prize-winning research of Daniel Kahneman, it turns out humans actually have two systems of thought. System 1 is our animal mind. It's fast, instinctive, and completely emotional. Then there's System 2, which is our logical, slow, deliberative mind. The problem is, traditional negotiation assumes we're all these rational System 2 actors. But we're totally not. We are emotional beasts. To win a negotiation, you literally cannot just argue logic. You have to target that emotional System 1 to gently guide their logical System 2 into giving you exactly what you want. Let's move into phase 2, the opening moves. All right, now that we know we're playing an emotional game here, how do we actually start? Well, it begins with tactical empathy, and your very first tool is literally just your voice. Your default tone should be this positive, playful voice, smiling while you speak to create a really collaborative environment. You want to almost always avoid the direct, assertive voice because that just instantly triggers defensiveness. But the real secret weapon? It's the late-night FM DJ voice. It goes a little something like this. You purposely slow things down. You drop your pitch, and you inflect downward at the end of your sentences. When you speak like this, you actually trigger an involuntary, neurological calm in the listener's brain, and it signals that you are in complete control. Next up is this almost magical biological trick called mirroring. Now, in the FBI playbook, this isn't about awkwardly copying someone's body language. It's shockingly simple. You just repeat the last 1 to 3 critical words of what your counterpart just said. I know, it sounds way too simple to actually work, but biologically, we fear what is different and we are naturally drawn to what is similar. So mirroring insinuates similarity. It builds rapid trust and practically forces the other person to elaborate and just keep talking. Let me just show you how effective this is with a really relatable everyday example. Imagine you have a boss who does those notorious drive-bys, dropping absurd demands right on your desk. The boss says, hey, let's make 2 copies of all the paperwork. Instead of arguing about how wasteful that is, you just mirror them with a genuinely inquisitive tone. I'm sorry, 2 copies? Your boss will then naturally explain and justify themselves, often realizing all on their own that the request is completely unnecessary. And you did it without ever triggering a confrontation. It's literally pure conversational judo. That leads us right into phase 3, navigating the middle. All right, this is where we take total control of the conversation by completely flipping how we handle agreement. We've all been taught to push for a yes, but pushing for a yes actually makes people incredibly defensive. We all hate feeling trapped by a cheesy salesman, right? So we need to flip the script on the word no. Because no isn't a failure, and it's not a rejection. It usually just means wait, or I'm not comfortable yet. When you give someone the permission to say no, it actually makes them feel super safe and in control. The real negotiation only begins after they say no. So, if yes isn't the goal here, what is? Well, the ultimate goal is hearing the exact phrase, that's right. Think about it. When you can summarize someone's feelings and their situations so perfectly that they look at you and say, that's right, you have just achieved a major psychological breakthrough. You've created unconditional positive regard. Remember, yes is often just a fake-out to get you to go away and leave them alone. But that's right, that is the sound of true alignment. To actually guide them to that alignment, we use what Voss calls calibrated questions. But you gotta watch out for a massive trap here: the word why. In almost any language across the globe, the word why feels like a direct accusation. If you ask, why did you do that? The other person just instantly gets defensive. So instead, you replace why with how or what. These words implicitly ask the other party for help. They give your counterpart the illusion of control, while actually forcing them to expend their own mental energy solving your problems for you. Let's tie this all back to our opening story with those Harvard professors. When they demanded $1 million or Voss's son would die, Voss just stared at them and asked one simple, incredibly brilliant, calibrated question. Using that calm DJ tone we talked about, he said, "How am I supposed to do that?" And boom, he shifted the entire frame. Suddenly, the kidnapper had to figure out the logistics of Voss's problem. If you ask this question enough times, your counterpart will literally start bidding against themselves.
Moving on to phase 4, bending reality and haggling.
So at some point, obviously, you do have to talk numbers, but be warned. Traditional compromise is a massive trap. Society teaches us to split the difference so everyone goes home happy. But imagine a scenario where you want to wear black shoes out and your spouse really wants you to wear brown shoes. If you compromise and split the difference, you step out of the house wearing one black shoe and one brown shoe. I mean, it's a disastrous outcome. A halfway compromise is so often the worst possible deal. As the book famously states, no deal is far better than a bad deal. And when you do refuse to compromise, the other side will likely drop the F-bomb on you. Fair. We just want what's fair. You really gotta watch out for this word. It is pure emotional manipulation designed to put you completely on the defensive. If someone accuses you of being unfair, please don't cave. Instead, use your calibrated questions. Just ask them calmly, "Okay, I apologize. Let's stop. Please explain to me how I'm treating you unfairly." Make them actually articulate it. Now, when you finally do get down to haggling, never, ever just throw out random numbers. You want to use the FBI's highly specific numerical framework, which is called the Ackerman system. Here's how it works. First, you set your target price. Your opening offer should be exactly 65% of that target. After they counter, you offer 85%, then 95%. And your final offer? It should be exactly 100% of your target, but it absolutely must be an odd, precise number, something like $37,934 instead of just $38,000 flat. That precision gives the number incredible weight. It makes it feel to the other side like it's literally the absolute last dollar you have in your pocket. Which brings us to our final section, Phase 5, the climax. This brings us to what is easily the most powerful concept in the entire negotiation playbook, the black swan. Look, in every single negotiation, there are between 3 and 5 pieces of completely unknown information that, if uncovered, would change absolutely everything. It could be a hidden variable, maybe a secret constraint, or just an unvoiced desire. The entire reason we do all this active listening and tactical empathy is specifically to unearth these black swans. So the really crucial takeaway here is this. When your counterpart is acting crazy or totally irrational, they aren't actually crazy. They are just acting on bad information, hidden constraints, or underlying interests that you simply don't know about yet. You're just missing a black swan. As Chris Voss says, when it doesn't make sense, there is sense to be made. You just have to stay at the table, use that late-night FM DJ voice, mirror their words, and listen fiercely until that hidden piece of the giant puzzle finally reveals itself. Let's pull all of this together now. Here is your rapid-fire summary, the ultimate tactical playbook to take away from this explainer today. First, forget cold logic. Target the emotional system 1. Use that calming FM DJ voice to establish real control. Mirror their words to build instant trust. Stop pushing for a fake yes and safely invite them to say no. Replace your accusatory why questions with calibrated how questions. And above all else, listen closely to hunt for that black swan that's going to change the entire dynamic of the deal. Which leaves us with this final thought. Conflict really doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a highly creative, empathetic collaboration. By applying the tools we've summarized from this book, you have the very real power to transform your daily interactions. So as you step away from this explainer and back into your life, ask yourself, what hidden black swan is just waiting to be uncovered in your next conversation? Thanks so much for joining us, and hey, happy negotiating.